In a world where carbs are your enemy, you need one man to help you fight your battles. That man is Jimmy.
Combating nutrition disinformation and general bull. It's Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com.
What's up, you guys? Welcome back to another Instagram Live, and we're here with another episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. If you're not already engaging live in the content, you got to go follow me over on Instagram Live. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content, just like all of these awesome people here right now are doing. Thank you guys for being here. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for up to 24 hours. After 24 hours, it does disappear. Pop on over to YouTube. We put all of the past episodes up on YouTube in archived form. Just type in a keyword, Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, the best of the best moments of this here show, we do a podcast with it. Check it out. It's the Jimmy Rants podcast. It's on Apple Podcast as well as Stitcher. All of these links, you guys, are at JimmyRants.com. Today's Jimmy Rants, we're continuing the theme of fasting. So if you haven't been paying attention to Jimmy Rants lately, why? Stick around. I do good content, I hope. And so I issued a challenge on social media starting on Sunday that I wanted to see how many people wanted to do a 7-day corporate challenge of fasting with just water and salt. And guys, I had no inkling that there was such this underground swell of people that would come out the woodwork wanting to do a fast with me. We're over 1,500 people now between Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and all the places that I put this out there. So thank you so much to everybody who wants to not eat for a week. Who knew there was such interest in doing that? So leading up to that, we're starting on July the 5th, by the way. So if you're just learning about this, there's still time. Come on in. We got lots of people ready to go on this. But we're going to start this the day after the 4th of July. So July the 5th. And we're going to go a week. And I will be here daily doing these Jimmy Rants videos on Instagram Live. And all of them will, of course, be housed at JimmyRants.com. But I want to be here as a support for you guys. And so leading up to this, one of the things that I thought would be fun is to kind of go over some of the most pressing issues when it comes to doing an extended fast. I did write a book about this called The Complete Guide to Fasting. If you've not gotten this as a resource, can I highly recommend it? Not just because I'm one of the co-authors. Me and Dr. Jason Fung wrote this 3 years ago, but it really is a great resource for you if you're going to attempt to do something like a 7-day fast. It's available in paper, ebook, and audiobook. I read the audiobook, so if you're not sick of my voice yet, go get the audiobook. But get it on Amazon or really wherever books are sold, you can get this book. So yesterday, I introduced this challenge, and then that was yesterday morning, and then yesterday afternoon, my Jimmy Rants episode was about the do's and don'ts of extended fasting. So go check those out, JimmyRants.com. Right now, they're up there. Well, not right now. Don't go away yet. So today, I wanted to talk about the myths of extended fasting. There are very common myths that are out there. And it's funny how our perception of things is just based on a whole lot of nutting. Think about the things that you believe, just inherently believe and have always believed. Well, for the longest time in the diet space, we always believed fat was clogging your arteries. So we just axiomatically just knew it was true. We never questioned it until we got exposed to this keto stuff that then changed our minds, and we realized fat was not the enemy in our health. But for the longest time, you had that in the back of your mind, right? And so, same with fasting. We have various beliefs surrounding the subject of fasting that really aren't based on fact. And so, I thought it would be fun in this Jimmy Rants episode, and what we're going to talk about here today is to go over the most common myths of extended fasting and why they are wrong. So, again, I'm going to be reading and going over the myths that we put in the complete guide to fasting. There are certainly lots of questions I'm sure that you have regarding fasting. I'm going to be doing an open Q&A very soon about this, but very briefly, in chapter 3 of the complete guide to fasting, we go over some of the more common myths. See if you've heard any of these before, and you probably have believed these or maybe still believe these are true. Fasting will put you in starvation mode. You heard that one before? Fasting will make you burn muscle. That's a biggie. I've heard that one so many times, and there's a very clear answer to that one. Fasting will cause your blood sugar to go too low. Fasting will result in overeating when you start eating again. Fasting will deprive you of essential nutrients. And then finally, the funnest one is, it's just crazy. Have you heard any of those before? Those of you that have gone on various fasts before? Yeah, I think we all have. And perhaps you've decided to join me in my 7-day water fasting challenge. And you maybe have told family or friends about this. You probably have heard one or more of all of those statements I just read. So you ready to bust some of these myths? Because I think these are the things that hold people back from getting all the benefits that they would get from doing an extended fast if they would just be willing to let go of those myths. Because many of the myths are based on a whole lot of nothing. So let's go over them. Myth number 1. You're in starvation mode. Okay, so here is the fun part of fasting that I don't think a lot of people think about. Would it surprise you to learn that it's better to eat no food at all than to undereat calories? So let me put a hard point on this. It is far better for you to have 0 calories, drink water, take salt. Everybody got your Redmond's real salt ready, and get your water ready, because it's all there. It's far better for you to have 0 calories with salt and water than it will be for you to eat 600 calories in a day. And you're thinking, oh my God, how does that work? If your body's getting sustenance, why isn't that better than getting nothing? Let me explain. And I've talked about this before. When you are fasting, you need to put every effort into doing the very thing you're trying to do. And that thing is not eating. Okay? When you are feasting, you don't need to underconsume on the calories and the energy that you're putting in your body. So when you choose to go on a fast and then you say, okay, I want to do this for my health, then your body's going to get rewarded for that. And you're not starving because you are in total control of how this goes. If at any point you don't feel well enough and you've done all the tricks and everything that I'll be talking about during fasting and you're just not feeling well doing it, then you have the control to end this. The ancillary to this starvation mode is you have an eating disorder. I've heard that from several people. No, an eating disorder, you're out of control. You can't control that. You've got it controlling you. And I think that's a huge distinction that needs to be said early and often is The beautiful thing about fasting is you get to decide when you start and when you finish. And if at any point you did not have control, then that's an eating disorder. But you have control, and that's the key here. Now, back to the under eating calories. So if you have 600 calories, people are, oh, that's far better than eating zero. Here's what you're telling your body when you under eat calories, like 600 calories. You're telling your body, okay, it's feasting time. So 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600 calories. And where's the rest of the calories? So when you're feasting, and that means anytime you're putting food in your mouth, you need to ensure that you're getting enough food. So if you're preparing for this 7-day fast coming up on Friday, don't you dare undereat on the calories leading into this. I want you to be fully nourished. I want your body fully prepared for what's about to happen starting on July the 5th. Because if you undereat the calories, your body will rebel. And there's so many things that start to happen, slowing down of the metabolism. This was the big one when I was doing the research with Dr. Fung for the Complete Guide to Fasting. If you eat 600 calories in a day, that's far worse than 0 calories a day on your metabolism. When you eat 600 calories in a day, you're basically telling your body, okay, you're stupid, I'm smarter, and I'm only going to give you 600 calories even though your caloric requirement is 16 to 1800 calories, for example. And so when you do that, your body's like, okay, dummy, I'm just going to slow down your energy needs so that the next time you do eat, it makes it that much harder on your body to adjust. Is that what you want? Is that the goal? No. So what happens when you eat 0, like so many of you are about to do starting on Friday? You're not starving. You're not in starvation mode. You actually are revving up your metabolism. Does that sound so weird? It really does, but it's so true. Your metabolism is about to go on fire. It's why so many people that go on an extended fast, they come out of it and they start shedding pounds really well. They start feeling really good and getting all the benefits of nutritional ketosis once they go back to eating their ketogenic diet again. It's pretty spectacular. So this whole myth of fasting puts you in starvation mode really isn't based on anything. And your body will rebel if you did a deficit. So these people that eat low calorie and think they're all high and mighty and are virtuous because they're eating less is not the goal. Eating sufficiently when you are feasting is the goal. Fasting sufficiently, which means 0 calories, which is why doing a total water and salt only fast is why we're doing this. You want to get all of those benefits that come from not eating so that when you are eating, you get those benefits as well. Does that all make sense? All right. If you're just joining us, we're going over the most common myths about extended fasting and why they're just completely 100% dead wrong. And it's usually based on just a belief system of what we've always heard, not really actually ever based on any facts. And so I wrote a book called The Complete Guide to Fasting. Go check it out on Amazon. It's in paperback, ebook, as well as audiobook read by yours truly. And I think it would be a great resource. So what we're doing here today is I'm going over the various myths that we put in The Complete Guide to Fasting, and we're hopefully busting these myths for you today. The second myth of extended fasting is that you're going to burn muscle. So I don't really know why this one always seems to creep in. And it's one that gets people freaked out. Oh my gosh, if I go on a 7-day fast, I'll just be bone because all my muscle will get leached. Okay, so here's a fact check about this one. If you go on a 7-day fast, it's very highly unlikely if you stay hydrated and you stay plenty salted and electrolyted up, get that salt in you, drink that water, your body can easily take a break from eating. And think about it ancestrally. Our hunter-gatherer ancestors, nobody's calling them obese. Nobody is calling them anything but fit and healthy. And yet they went very long periods of time, sometimes between animal kills, before they had any food of consequence. So what did they do? Oh, yeah, that's right. They fasted 7, 10, sometimes 14, 21 days at a time. Do you think they lost muscle during that time? Maybe for the longer fast they did, slight amounts. But here is what happens biochemically when you are in a fasted state. Your blood sugar goes down, your insulin levels go down, your inflammation levels go down, and your ketone bodies go up. So why is that last one important? When ketones are higher, there is this muscle sparing effect. In other words, when you see a jacking up of your ketone bodies, generally around day 3 of doing a 7-day fast, you're going to have the chemicals in your body that's going to preserve your muscle mass. And in fact, I've done some DEXA scans in the past during the midst of some 21-day fasts, and I show a lot of body fat loss, and I show no change in lean mass. And yet people fear this. It's irrational to fear it. And in fact, let me read from the Complete Guide to Fasting about this particular myth. Dr. Fung mentions the human body evolved for you to survive periods of fasting. You store food energy as body fat, and then you use this fuel when food is not available. That's a great point, because people think, well, my body's going to feed on muscle. If you have body fat, it's going to feed on that first. It's a much more efficient fuel, especially when you're ramping up fat burning from burning ketones, which is what happens when you're fasting. You're going to see that body fat get mobilized. It's not going to prefer your muscle in your body. It's going to always prefer dumping the rest of the glycogen stores, getting a little bit of nutrition out of that, and then right for the stored body fat. And even in the leanest of the lean person, unless you're like under 10% body fat, anybody with over 10% body fat, you've got more than enough energy on your body from stored body fat stores to get through a 1-week fast. So this is really interesting. Muscle is preserved until all the body fat becomes so low that the body has no choice but to turn to muscle. Can I tell you the number of people that are in that category of you don't have enough body fat left that it has no choice but to go to muscle? It's so minuscule. I mean, we're talking 1% of 1% of 1% of the total population, which means 99.99999% of you guys have enough body fat to go through a period of fasting. Dr. Fung notes that this only happens when your body fat is under 4%. And the most elite male marathon runners have about 8%. So even they can fast. So this whole notion that you're going to burn muscle when you're fasting for an extended period of time, like the upcoming 7-day fast we're going to do, is simply not true. And I know these are all beliefs we've always had when it comes to the subject of the other F word. But I hope we're going to bust some of these in your mind today, and you start to make that paradigm shift in your head that these things you've always believed simply aren't true. All right, so again, if you're just joining us, we're going over the most common myths of extended fasting and why they're wrong. So far, we've had fasting puts you in starvation mode, and we've addressed why that's wrong. We just addressed fasting makes you burn muscle, and we're up to the third myth now. The third one, fasting causes low blood sugar. Duh, of course it does. If you're not feeding your body any food at all, carbohydrate or otherwise, why would you think your blood sugar would go up? Why would you believe your blood sugar would go any direction but down? And here's the interesting thing. People freak out when they see their blood sugar go below 70. Some people even like below 90, but in the keto world, 70s and 80s is pretty good blood sugar. But when you start to fast, you're going to see your blood sugar go down. I have seen mine go down as far as 51 during an extended fast. I have heard other people talk about being in the 30s and 40s, and that freaks people out to no end. But let me acquiesce that a little bit in your mind. Because what happens is, especially in that day 3-4, when ketones really start to jack up, you've got to look at the ketones as part of the energy that is fueling you during a fast. And so, yes, blood sugar goes down. It's because your body's not running on sugar. It's running on fat and ketones. So you almost have to add together what your blood sugar is and what your blood ketones are. And here's what happens. Maybe you go into this 7-day fast and your starting blood sugar is 90 and your blood ketones are about 0.8. Okay. So by day 3-4, your blood sugar could be 57, but look at what happens to your blood ketones. They go astronomically higher. 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5. And it's that higher level of ketones that I want you to focus on that is giving you the benefit that you don't feel hypoglycemic. You don't have the shakes and the fatigue and the hunger that all come from being in a state of hypoglycemia just because your blood sugar is down in the 50s. I really don't want you guys to freak out about this if you get in the midst of this and you start testing. If you know you're one of those neurotic people that's going to freak out if you see a number like that, then don't test. But it could be fascinating for you to see this correlation of when your blood sugar goes low, your blood ketones go higher, you're totally asymptomatic of any problems at all. And I want you to be confident in this. I don't want this to be a thing because it's really not a thing. And so fasting causes low blood sugar. You bet it does, but it's a very good thing because your body is going to ramp up production of ketones. And here's the fun part, you guys. I cannot wait for you guys to experience day 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of being on a complete fast from food. Because that's when the magic happens. Your brain, you're going to feel like you're the smartest person on the earth. You are. Because your brain will be so on fire with that very high level of ketones. It's almost like taking a ketone ester, which I've done that before, and you get this really rush of ketones on the brain. You're going to be really pleased. The other thing that's kind of cool is it calms your mood. When you're in that really deep state of fasting, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days of fasting, your mood will be under control. You would think you'd be moody because you're hungry. You're really not. You'll see. You'll see. And that's because your blood sugar is under control. Your insulin's coming down. Your inflammation's coming down. And you've got ketones coming out the wazoo. So I hope you're ready for that, you guys. And that this low blood sugar is not going to be a bad thing. It's an extraordinarily good thing. All right? Let's go to myth number 4. Fasting will result in overeating. Really? Is that what people believe? I suppose the belief, the myth that's out there is the longer you fast, you get increasingly more hungry. And I suppose if you think about it just on a surface value like that, that's what you would believe. But obviously, if you believe that, you've never actually done a long fast. Because here's what's happened. Here's what happens. If you're keto and you go into this, day 1 should be a breeze because you're used to intermittent fasting. Day 1 is not the problem. Day 2 is the devil. I'm just going to warn you now. Day 2 sucks. Day 2, I'm going to get more text messages and instant messages here on Instagram and on everywhere on day 2 because there will be people I'll have to talk off the ledge because day 2 can be tough. But if you get through day 2, get to day 3, and that's when when the skies open up and you have all of these really good things start to happen in your metabolism. You get through 72 hours, you get the autophagy, and you get all of these benefits that you're just so craving. And then day 4, 5, 6, 7, you're not hungry. And I've said this before, you will think I never have to eat again. Obviously you do, but you will have that feeling of such satiety and such not being hungry. It's going to shock you guys. And I'm just telling you now, it's coming. Trust me on this. When you get into that day 4, 5, 6, 7, if I'm not hearing people say, oh my freaking goodness, why have I not been here before? And that's the beautiful thing. So that when you end the fast, there is not this rush to go eat yourself out of house and home. If you go into that day 7 and you finish up this 7-day fast, and many of you will find that first meal, you'll eat about half of what you normally would eat. You will. And you'll also find, this is the really fascinating thing of those who recently did the Redmond's Real Salt 3-day challenge. A lot of them said, yeah, I had that first meal back, but then because they've been fasting for just 3 days, they were out of the habit of eating. And they're like, I'm really not hungry. And so they actually start fasting after having that meal. And that's a cool thing, guys. And I think this is a habit that's going to serve you well when you start doing fasting. It's one reason during my sabbatical, I'm committing to doing this kind of alternate week of fasting with feasting on meat, water, and salt, and then fasting on water and salt, and alternating the weeks, because I think we're more capable of that kind of thing than we even know. So this whole notion of you're going to be overeating, it's just a myth. You're not going to overeat. If anything, you are going to undereat when you get back. So you almost have to remind yourself, oh yeah, I'm feasting now, so I need to make sure I'm getting adequate calories. And I'll be around when we end the fast next week. I'll be around to offer support for a couple of days after to make sure that you're eating enough. But major things are going to happen in the midst of this extended fast. And I'm excited for so many of you guys to experience this for yourself. All right, myth number 5. Fasting will deprive you of nutrients. So, this is always a fun one because people think, oh, you're not getting the nutrients. How's your body going to survive? And so there are obviously micronutrients, so the vitamins and minerals in your diet. And then there's the macronutrients, which is the fats, the proteins, and the carbohydrates. Well, number one, there's no need for carbohydrates. There's no nutrient that you get from carbohydrates that you can't get from fat and protein. All right. But let's go over this because I think this is one that probably does hang a lot of people up. All right. So here's what Dr. Fung wrote in the Complete Guide to Fasting. Again, reading from this. The body normally loses both essential amino acids and essential fatty acids in the urine and the stool. And while you're fasting, it reduces these losses by hanging on to much of the necessary nutrients. Bowel movements usually will decrease during fasting because you're not eating anymore. And since no food is going in the stomach, there's less stool formation. And this will help prevent any loss of protein. And also keep in mind the big A word, autophagy. What is autophagy? Autophagy, which happens while you're fasting, especially a 72 plus hour fast like you guys are going to be doing. Autophagy is the cleaning up of proteins in the body. And so while you're not eating food, there is nourishment in your body that will be consumed. And you got to look at it that way. Between your stored body fat, which again, if you're over 4% body fat, as we mentioned earlier, you've got energy on the body. And the autophagy that's happening with the proteins floating around in the body, your body has plenty of nourishment to go through a fast. Essential nutrients, particularly nitrogen, can be lost through the urine. Nitrogen in the urine is a sign of protein metabolism, and as protein metabolism decreases during fasting, the nitrogen in the urine decreases significantly, almost to negligible levels. And to preserve the proteins further, the body will break down all these old proteins down into amino acids and then will recycle them over and over and over again. This is one reason in the keto space, you don't need to eat tons and tons and tons of protein because the body's very efficient at recycling them. And when you're fasting, like we're about to do with a 7-day fast, it's all the more reason for you to not be worried about this. By keeping all of these essential nutrients in the body instead of excreting them out, the body is able to recycle them all during your time of fasting. Does that make sense, you guys? I don't want you to fear, oh my gosh, I'm not eating food, so there's no nutrients getting in my body. Your body is so used to dumping out excess nutrients all the time that you don't even realize the nutrients that are right now inside your body. I ate yesterday, right at about maybe 16 hours ago. So yes, I'm engaging in intermittent fasting leading up to this extended fast, and you should too, by the way. And I'm not worried about my body not having the nutrients, because inside the body right now, there's so much nutrition that your body is prepared to fast. And I want you to be confident about that as we go over these myths, that you're doing something very good for your body, not very bad. All right, last myth in the complete guide to fasting before I come to you guys. The last myth, it's just crazy. You're going to get this from a lot of people that will just tell you, it's just crazy. Why aren't you eating? Why aren't you starving yourself? You know it. You know it's coming. This is always the fallback position, Dr. Fung wrote in the Complete Guide to Fasting, of those who can't think of any other reason why fasting should not be attempted, but the science is clear. Obesity happens because you overeat, and sometimes you don't fast enough, and fasting helps in spades. Its effectiveness is unquestioned. So the two questions that remain, is it healthy? And the answer to that question is yes. And can you do it? Millions of people worldwide have fasted for weight loss and other reasons. And that's one reason that we wrote the Complete Guide to Fasting. We wanted to demystify this whole idea of not eating, because we live in a culture today where there is food availability nearly everywhere. So with food availability, the idea of fasting just seems like such a foreign concept to people. But fasting was incredibly normal in hunter-gatherer ancestors. Fasting was completely normal, really, if you think about it, a century ago. Nobody thought twice about it. Nobody thought twice about, okay, well, I'll just not eat until the end of the day. Nobody thought twice about it. It was just normal. So why have we made fasting this other F word, as I put it in the Complete Guide to Fasting? Why have we made it into that? I think those of you who choose to engage in something like a 7-day fast, like we're about to begin, you're on the cutting edge of what I think we're returning to. So get there sooner than later. Be the example. Lead by example. And all those people that think you're crazy, when the time comes that they realize, oops, I need to be crazy too, they're going to come to you as a resource. So hopefully this encouraged you today of these most common myths about extended fasting and why they're wrong. And I'm really anxious to see what you guys have to say. Welcome in, welcome in. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. So many people here today. Caden says, I see it more as an offer of assistance than a challenge. Well, I am offering this as a challenge for people, because there are some people who would choose not to fast. So challenging them, some people go, well, okay, I'm going to do this. But if you see it as assistance, I'm certainly offering my assistance this week as well. Beth says, our community is empowering. It'll be the wind beneath my wings. You know, you're going to make me start singing Bette Midler for as long as I can do it. That's awesome, Beth. I love that book, says ADF. Thank you. Again, go get the Complete Guide to Fasting. It's under 200 in all books, you guys. 3 years after it's come out, so it's pretty amazing. Do you lack energy on extended fast? I've only done 3 days before lavender. So yeah, that is a common myth as well. We did not necessarily address specifically in that chapter on the myths, but I know we put information in there about that. People think their energy's just going to go down and down and down, and it actually doesn't. like we talked about earlier with the brain health benefits, when you start to get that huge increase in your ketones by day 3, in your blood ketones, and that huge decrease in your blood sugar, you're going to notice something really fascinating. You've got energy out the wazoo. You do. And I think it'll be surprising to so many people. Now, let me give the caveat that you should have the energy like that. If you don't, then there's other mitigating factors that are happening. Maybe you've got a little more stress in your life at that time. Maybe you're a woman, maybe you're about to start your period, and that would also impact your ability to have that energy at that time. So I don't want to just say, well, this is what should happen, and when it doesn't happen for you, you think, okay, what's wrong with me? There could be other factors involved, and certainly I want to do a Jimmy Rants on all those kind of things to think about as well. No way my body is on the biggest natural high. Buzzing, says Shrinking with OMAD. Yes. And see, you do one meal a day. And so you're used to that. Caden says, how low is too low for your blood sugar? So that's a great question. I don't think it's about the actual number. People like to say, well, if your blood sugar goes below blah, 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 then you're blah, blah, blah. I don't think it's about that. I think, Caden, it's about the symptoms. If you have a blood sugar of 120 and you've got fatigue and hunger and the shakes and you're disoriented in your head, that's hypoglycemia at 120 blood sugar. But you could have a 45 blood sugar, be completely lucid, and feel great, have great energy. I don't think the number on the meter is what you need to pay attention to. It's interesting to see it if your blood sugar does get down to those levels with a corresponding elevation in blood ketones, by the way. That's the cool thing about this, is you kind of see in real time that jump and that switch that happens when you have blood sugar that was at a certain level and blood ketones at a certain level, and the blood sugar goes down, the blood ketones go up. Again, you've got to see the blood ketones stepping in the place of where the blood sugar used to be. And that's what happens. So you don't really need to look at any absolute number on the blood sugar meter. Now, if you do test and you have a 45, 50 on the blood sugar, but your blood ketones aren't a commensurately higher level, then maybe you'll start to feel some symptoms and maybe you'll realize, okay, something's wrong. But I would highly doubt that on a 7-day fast. Bonnie says, my friend has an ulcer and her doctor said she has to lower her calories and eat five times a day, tiny meals to rest her tummy. Fasting would help her, but her doctor says to eat less. Yeah, fasting would be much better than what her doctor is mentioning. I'm not a doctor. I'm not giving medical advice, but that doctor's an idiot. That doctor is actually going to exacerbate the problem. Certainly, I would urge your friend to get a second opinion, but an all-out fast would definitely give that body a rest so that it could heal from the ulcers. So hoping she finds the information she needs. Let's see here. Wow, so many of you guys here today. Thank you for that. Peter Attia talked about how much easier 0 calories is as compared to hypocaloric. Yep, that's true. And your sleep quality. And I haven't even talked about sleep in the context of fasting. I'm going to go ahead and tease it for you here because it does come up a bit as well. Your sleep might be a little disturbed in that first couple of days on a fast, but don't let that alarm you. That's completely normal. What's going to happen though, you get to day 3 and some people say, well, I only slept 6 hours last night. And so my question back to them, do you feel good? Yeah. Is your energy level well? Yeah. And are you having any hunger? No. Why again are you worried about only getting 6 hours of sleep? I wear this ring. It's called an Oura ring, O-U-R-A, biohackingring.com if you want to get one, but it tracks my sleep for me. And in the midst of a fast, you guys, I noticed that my REM and my deep sleep are solid. And so those are the things that give you the most rest and recovery when you are fasting. And think about it. Your body doesn't have to work as hard to repair in the midst of doing a fast. And so if your body doesn't have to work so hard to repair because you're not giving it the stress of eating and digesting and detoxification and all the things that are taking place when you're eating food, it stands to reason that your body doesn't have to work as hard during sleep so that you sleep more efficiently, even though you sleep a shorter amount of time. So don't freak out if your sleep time is less during the midst of the fast. I see it as you're redeeming maybe a couple of extra hours that you can do other things when you're in the midst of doing this fast. Karen says, I remember in college back in the 1970s that I had a roommate who would fast 1 day a week. And I thought she was cray-cray. Yes, I think a lot of us thought that. 410-pound Jimmy Moore would have thought, oh my gosh, fast? What? Yeah. Jimmy, I work out Robert Sykes style 5 days a week, so I will need to stop that for this week. Correct. Yes, Mike, thank you for that question. This is something, too, that I think we need to keep in mind. What's your goal this week? Your goal starting July the 5th is to heal the body and to go through kind of a physical therapy session. So to that end, if you were going through physical therapy, you would not be going to heal some part of your body. You would not go to the gym and work out, would you? No, you would be engaged in the physical therapy. So I want you to treat this 7 days of fasting as physical therapy for your metabolism and for your whole body. And I think it could definitely be a detriment if you try to keep up, especially if you do keto savage styled workouts. It's just 1 week. So commit to this for 1 week. And then when you go back to doing your exercise and your heavy lifting again, Mike, you're going to find you're going to probably break some PRs. So I know Robert likes to incorporate in periods of rest. Just consider this one of your periods of rest. What kind of salt do you recommend? So thank you for that, R.M. Warner. Redmond's Real Salt is the one I'll be using. And yeah, in the midst of a fast, anytime you have that feeling of blah or what you think is hunger, put a little bit in your hand, stick it underneath your tongue, let it ooze there, and you'll be so glad you did. I also mentioned yesterday about these fasting drops from Keto Chow. Go to jimmylovesketochow.com and you can get some of these fasting drops, which will help you immensely. That is concentrated forms of sodium and magnesium. So check it out, you guys. Robin says, if your body knows no food is coming, it'll hit the fat stores. If you feed it a little bit, it won't. Oh, thank you, Robin. That's exactly right. It waits for more food and then lowers your metabolism while it waits. Yes, it's like, okay, dummy, we're waiting. Okay, okay, we're just going to slow your metabolism. Good point. Is Christine joining you on the fast, says R.T. Varnell? No. Well, number one, she's getting over a cold. So if you're sick, you don't want to be fasting because fasting can be a stressor in your body. So no. And plus she also has various things that make it a little harder for her to fast. She is going to try to incorporate more fasting. She regularly does intermittent fasting, upwards of like 18 to 24 hours. I think the longest she's ever gone is 36 hours without eating. But she's still kind of working that fasting muscle to get higher and higher. The functional medicine doctor that we're seeing in Asheville, North Carolina, has recommended that she does a little bit longer fast. So she's going to try to push it a little bit longer. And we'll definitely be doing that together during my sabbatical. Let's see here. Usually around days 5, 6, I see a rise in blood sugar. Bodies are smart enough. If I really need glucose, it'll make it. Thank you for that, Robin. Yes. I remember doing some 21-day fasts. And in day like 12, 13, I would pop a 117 blood sugar. What? And it freaked me out to the point that I remember I called Dr. Fung because I was in the midst of writing the Complete Guide to Fasting and I was doing these longer fasts just to see what it was like. And he's like, Jimmy, that's completely normal. Because when you're releasing stored body fat, there are little pockets of sugar, glucose that's in your stored body fat. Think about what your body fat is doing. It's not there to be grotesque. It's there to protect your body from harm. And so toxins are stored in there, and sugar is stored in there. So when you are mobilizing some of that stored body fat that might have been there for years, you're going to have little pockets of sugar that will be released. And you need to know that going in, that if you start to see a higher level of blood sugar on, say, day 5, 6, it's okay. It's totally okay. And I don't want you to worry about that. It's just something interesting as a marker that you might want to track just to see when it happens, to know that you are mobilizing some really deep-seated stored body fat. That's the most exciting part to me of doing an extended fast. You get to see the release of those fat stores that we all desperately want to have let go. Keto Purple says it's amazing what people believe but haven't done research on. No, they just want to believe it. And I'm over that. I think there's too much information at our fingertips. I mean, we wrote this book specifically for that purpose, but there's so much information online now. It's your own fault if you don't have information about this subject to the point that you won't do a little more research than just tell people they're crazy for not eating. Carnivore Heel says, so are you going to be doing 7 days fasting, 7 days feasting on rotation during my sabbatical? Yes. Right now I'm doing this as kind of a challenge to my followers while I'm still here for the next couple of months. And so I wanted to do this one. I might do one more before I leave on sabbatical in the month of August. So if for some reason you missed this one, I will likely do this again somewhere in late August. So stay tuned. I'll share more about that later. But right now we're trying to help people that are going on this 7 days starting on July the 5th. Fasting is amazing, says Nev. Nev would know. Nev eats meat and incorporates periods of fasting. She says, I do it once a year. Yes. Well, you do it more than once a year, Nev, because you do intermittent fasting quite a bit, I'm sure. So, but you're talking about extended fasting, yes. Alicia says, I fasted 46 hours before my surgery yesterday. It went great. Benign. Hallelujah. Blows my mind at all the carbs they serve. It's like the hospital is dishing out diabetes. Oh, I could do a whole Jimmy Rants just on the nutritional, I don't even know what I'd call it, just nutritional bleep of hospitals. The notion of food availability has been redefined with a keto way of eating. Exactly. That's true, Beth. Tracy says, I'm very excited to participate in the challenge. We're glad to have you, Tracy. R.M. Warner, how do you get your salt in? Just drinking it in water. You take your Redmond's real salt, you dump it in your hand, you pop it back. Done. That's what you do. Now, some people do put it in their water, and that's where these fasting drops from Keto Chow come in handy, because it gives you a concentrated amount of salt and magnesium and other electrolytes, which are essential during a fast, an extended fast. But this is so easy, guys. Just keep this. Get some, you guys. Get the Redmond's brand of real salt. Keep it by your side, and then when you feel that feeling that you're kind of getting blah, and I would say stay ahead of it before you get to the point of feeling blah, just salt throughout the day. There is no harm in consuming salt. Salt is a critical mineral that when you are fasting, you're dumping so fast that you need to replenish. Same with water. Make sure you've got water on hand, and you don't want to guzzle it, but you want to make sure you're getting ample amounts, because again, you're going to be peeing more because you are dumping water when your insulin starts to lower, your blood sugar starts to lower, your ketones go up. All of these things are going to happen, and you're prepared for that. If I've never fasted before, can I do it? Well, Yellow-Eyed One, if you've never fasted before, this is your time. Just try it. If you don't make 7 days, it's all good. If you've never fasted beyond maybe an intermittent fast, we've all fasted overnight during our sleep, but if you haven't even done, say, 16, 18 hours, then try it, see how you do, see how you feel, and you'll work up that fasting muscle. Arnold Schwarzenegger did not look like the way he looked like when he was in his competitions as a world-renowned bodybuilder on day one. Day one, he was a scrawny little guy like the rest of the people that are on day one. And then he built into that. I want you to think of fasting in the same way. You are working out that muscle to become the Arnold Schwarzenegger of fasting. Okay? So it'll take time. If this one only goes 2 days, so be it. Next time it's 3 days. Next time it's 5 days. Next time it's 7 days. And you work up to that level where you get that fasting muscle to the point where I am 7 days. I've done so many that are longer than 7 days. 7 days is not long to me. When the Redmonds people did the 3-day fast, I went, yeah, that's nothing. So it's something, though, if you've never done it before. So please do that, Yellow-Eyed. B. Parkman says, read Isaiah 58, 6 through 14 in the Bible for what God has to say about the benefits of fasting. I love that. Thank you. Why is black coffee or tea not allowed? Well, Tammy, I'm not saying you can't have black coffee or tea, as long as they're unsweetened and nothing put in them. So it would be black coffee or straight unsweetened tea. The problem with those things, though, for some people is they will perhaps raise insulin. And one of the things you don't want to have happen is have insulin raised when you're not eating food, because your body will say, okay, something's wrong, we need to eat food. And so by avoiding them, you keep that at bay. If you get benefit from drinking black coffee or black tea in the midst of doing a fast, then please do it. Don't hear me wrong when I say water only fast, water and salt only fast. I don't want you to get neurotic about it. If you find that there's benefits for you, then do it. But I know for some people, they get that insulin response, and it's a bugaboo to doing a 7-day fast. Greer says, I'll be working on my fast. I'm a driver. My longest fast was 15 days. Wow. 15 days is hardcore. I've done 28 out of 31 days. I also did 21 days straight 3 times. So I know how hard it is to get to like a day 15. So kudos to you. Val says, tomorrow is my day 1. Any thoughts on medication that has to be taken with food? Well, Dr. Fung's position on that is if you have medications that you have to take, then have a little bit of food. So maybe a few green leafy vegetables, just something minimal in calories, maybe 50 to 75 calories worth of food, Val, and then you take the medication with that. And it depends on the medication. If it's a diabetes medication, maybe you could talk to your doctor and let them know what you're doing, and they can monitor you. It might be that you might not need that medication in the midst of fasting. But again, talk with your doctor about that. Couldn't wrap my brain around fasting until I did it, says Jesse. I now feel so much better when I eat, don't eat, refeed, repeat, than when I just graze all the time. It's amazing, isn't it, Jesse? Because people have these notions in their head of what they think it will be like, and it ain't nothing like that. So kudos to you for biting the bullet. Jesse says, my favorite one is doing an 18-6 intermittent fast, 1 day fast per week, and then extended fasting once a month or 2. See, you're addicted now to it, Jesse. That's awesome. Yania says, you're my hero, read your book, and that gave me the faith and the science to lose 110 pounds in a year. Whoa! That is so cool. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. B. Parkman says, keto and being in ketosis is a great way to get into a fast. Your body's already in ketosis and doesn't have to make that transition. Exactly. Because what you do in a fast is you mobilize stored body fat to use as energy and fuel. What else does that? Oh, yeah, keto. And so if you're already in a ketogenic metabolism, then when you switch over to fasting, the reason your body doesn't freak out is because it's used to doing exactly what you're doing. And of course, this is also used as an argument. Well, if you want to do a fast, I don't see why you need to fast. You just eat a ketogenic diet. It does exactly the same thing. Nuance difference. The metabolism, the fat metabolism pathway is the same, but you get some really incredible things, autophagy, and other benefits that come when you're completely not eating for a period of time. Tammy says, if I don't have a ketone blood sugar meter, can I use urine strips to test ketones? You can, Tammy, but I'm not a fan of the urine testing strips. I would say if you don't have the meter, just don't bother. Because at the end of the day, it's just, you don't really need to do that unless you want to test. And if you want to test, you got to test blood. Nev says, I love the Redmond's real salt. Take some before I train. Pour it on my steaks. Yes, guys, if you don't use this in your ketogenic lifestyle, and especially on doing this 7-day fast, Redmond's is the brand. So they mine this in the state of Utah, and it's just incredible. And the taste, you think you've had salt, you ain't had salt till you've had Redmond's. It really is the best tasting salt, but more importantly than taste is it's got the best nutrition in it. So I love that. When you're fasting, this is your elixir. Use it. Can you get too much salt? Beth wants to know on a fast. I eat it all the time. Should I increase it? I have at least a few tablespoons a day. Well, when you're fasting, keep in mind you're dumping more than you normally would. And so if you're dumping more, you need to replenish more. So I don't think there's too much salt that you could consume on a fast. I mean, don't make yourself sick from it, but use it strategically. And I think there's more people that undereat salt when they're doing extended fasting than they overeat salt. Caption KC says, I've read that one should only drink distilled water during a fast. Is that true? So that's something that came in my conversation with Dr. Thomas Seyfried. He's a very famous cancer researcher with ketogenic diets and periods of fasting. And I remember on my podcast, the Live and La Vida Low Carb Show, one time, he mentioned that if you're going to fast and do it in like 7 to 10 days, you should do it with distilled water only. And I'm okay. I get where he's coming from. I think mineral water is probably the best way to go, or some quality form of water. So no, I don't think that's true. I think you can get some really great benefits from having higher quality levels of water, and then adding in like fasting drops and adding in some Redmond's real salt, and all those things are going to help you far more than just doing distilled water. I just read a comment in a carnivore group that said extended fasting promotes bacterial growth and SIBO. Amy, I've never heard that before, and we definitely would have addressed that if that was true. If anything, what happens during an extended fast is you're killing off some really bad bugs in your gut. And what's my evidence for that? Anecdotally, I can tell you that when I've gone on an extended fast of 7 days or more, almost invariably when I come back to eating again and I start pooping again, it's beautiful. And I know that sounds weird, but just stick with me. If your gut health was being compromised by doing extended fasting, it would show up in your poop. But the poops get better. They do. And so to me, if there was detriment happening to the point of bacterial growth and SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, it would manifest itself when you start eating again. And it simply doesn't. It gets better. R.M. Warner says, so what meter do you recommend? So there's a great new blood ketone meter, you guys, called Keto Coach X. I know there's another one on the market that's out there, and people like to stick with ones that they've had, but this Keto Coach X is the most affordable one, and to me, far more accurate one than some of those bigger names that are out there. It's the one I've started to use more and more and more in my own personal ketone testing. So Keto Coach X, as far as I know, it only tests for blood ketones. So then a blood sugar meter, just find one. There's so many out there. You can get the Rely On brand from Walmart, and they're relatively inexpensive. And then test using those. So most bang for your buck. Yeah, those will be the ones that I would suggest. All right, guys, I'm running out of time. Any thoughts on bentonite clay? Hey, if it makes you feel good, then go for it. Anita says, I'm looking at Keto Chow website. I have leg cramps. Is it okay to take the mag drops along with the fasting drops? the fasting drops have magnesium in them, so I don't think you necessarily need to double up. If you find you're still having symptoms, obviously you can increase it. Jesse's telling me that the Keto Coach X guys are working on a glucose meter. Yeah, I didn't think they had one just yet, but it's certainly something that's sorely needed, and they're definitely going to make a splash, you guys, in the keto space because they're offering a much cheaper alternative than those bigger names that are out there. So, guys, the bottom line in this Jimmy Rants is some of these most common myths of extended fasting simply aren't true. In fact, I would even say they're dead wrong. And hopefully after today's show, you now realize just how wrong they are. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. If you want to engage live, you got to go follow me on Instagram Live. So go there. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LIVIN LOWCARBMAN. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay for 24 hours. After that, just go to JimmyRants.com. We house all the past episodes in video form on YouTube. My producer also does a Jimmy Rants podcast, so a lot of these will show up there in a list at JimmyRants.com. I got a lot more fasting stuff to talk to you guys about, so be back a little bit later on. So until next time, we'll see you then.